Welcome to the CyberJA podcast, the place where we discuss all things cybersecurity and GRC. I am Richard Perry, your cybersecurity and GRC enthusiast. The aim of this podcast is to provide a meaningful value-added platform via which upcoming cybersecurity professionals like yourself can gain insights from various topics covering cybersecurity and GRC that will enable them to become professionals that the industry demands. Stay tuned for what next on the CyberJA podcast. We have a cybersecurity engineer, Air Force veteran, and co-host of the Cyber Coffee Hour. And I strongly recommend, guys, that you check this podcast out. And he has quite a number of titles, experience, as it relates to his cybersecurity journey. And that is what we want to definitely delve into as we discuss and to provide that avenue for upcoming cybersecurity professionals who are definitely seeking to gain that level of mentorship and guidance into this challenging cybersecurity path. So we have Dr. Joseph J Burt-Miller. Welcome, and thanks for joining us today on CyberJA.
Sir, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. And just a small correction there, guys. Dr. Joseph J Burt-Miller Jr. Yes, that's it. All right, good.
You know what? I appreciate that because names are a big thing, and especially for me, like I always try to take care and pronouncing other people's names because I know the feeling when somebody jacks up my name. So no, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I totally understand. I totally understand. I was like looking back to say, no, am I dyslexic or something? Let me just ensure
No,
that
no, no.
all well. All right, so
Oh,
all
you
right, so
good?
we're all good. All right, so and you will definitely agree with me that you have so many people that see our profiles, they look at our achievements, but they do not really understand the background story in terms of our progression, our success. So,
Right.
how did your journey all started into cybersecurity? Was it always about tech? Was it always about, cybersecurity?
Yeah. So a quick answer, no. Um, I first so just I guess starting from the beginning, growing up in New York, Mount Vernon, New York, specifically. Um, for me, my environment, I necessarily didn't have anyone that was doing this type of work that I felt that I could aspire to say, I want to be like him, I want to be like her to do cybersecurity or even IT. Um, 'Cause even then, I don't think cyber was really as popular as it is now. Um, my first, I would say, introduction into like computers was my uncle. My uncle, he lived in New Jersey, and so growing up, so he's my father's brother. So whenever from time to time, we always visit. It was going from New York to Jersey. It was I think it was like a I don't know 30, 45 minute drive to Patterson, and yeah, during that point in time in his life, he was working on computers. I think he was doing like IT repair. So whenever I go over, he had like PC parts and everything. CRT monitors. Those big monitors back then. So he always had them all over printers, and because he was working on stuff, and it just made me curious. So it piqued my interest, and I would ask him questions, and I wanted to emulate that because I would see him doing this stuff, and um, so it made me curious to where I started taking PCs apart myself and learning how they worked. Um, and then it just continued to grow that curiosity and it necessarily wasn't really anyone pushed me to say, hey, you should do this. It was just out of my own curiosity, and I just grown to really love computing and it was so much so as I was working through it. So now when I was and just give context. I was in the military for 4 years. I didn't do IT. I did HVAC, and HVAC that's heat and ventilation, air conditioning. And so I did that. Then after I got the military, worked at Department of Veterans Affairs in New Jersey. And so even then, I was still doing HVAC then. I wasn't doing IT yet. So while I was still doing HVAC and still exploring my love for computing, like I was doing like a side job where I would do like PC repair on the side. So I even created like my own like IT like work order slips. I had my prices laid out, and I remember just going around and say, hey, if you got PC problems, I could work on them. And yeah, and I felt like official, man. Like I said, people email me, send a quote, and all that stuff. So, but it just goes to show, and I think that just shows the importance of how I would say mentoring is, how impactful that can be for someone, at any age. Because I do give a lot of credit to my uncle because, man, I know for me, that young asking a ton of questions, be like, oh man, kid, get out of my face. you know. But no, he was very patient and he took the time to explain and show me. And I think that's what really helped to develop that, like I said, from that curiosity, which transformed into a skill set. And as I continue to learn, and then of course, that went for me to, with my schooling and everything like that, from my bachelor's. I did computer information systems. Then after that, my master's in cyber, and then to my doctorate in cyber as well. But no, yeah, it didn't always start out with that. It definitely it took it took some time for me to, like I said, to get to that point. But like having an early influence from my uncle, and then from there just continue to grow. And then as I learned more, it was just being getting more advanced. And then once I finally so when I was working at the VA doing my at that point in time I was working my bachelor's then. um I knew, I mean, I love HVAC, I have a lot of respect for those who do it. It's a great skill set, especially as a homeowner. There's a lot of skills that you can learn, that you can save yourself a lot of money with the skills that you learn that you can do for yourself. But I saw that wasn't a career that I wanted to do long term, because I think that's a young person's job. And what I mean is, because it's very it can be physically demanding, and also too you do have to factor in the um you do deal with like chemicals, like I said, when we deal with compressors, refrigerant, things of that nature. So you do have to take extra care of yourself. And when you work around some of the veterans in the shop, a lot of them, they kind of stop doing the safety precautions, and you could easily fall into some bad habits. So you do have to take care of yourself, because the- you can have injuries, that things that will linger, pretty much, for some cases, rest of your life. So when I saw that wasn't something I wanted to do, I was, that I wanted to continue to do, for the rest of my life. I was like, man, I got to get out of here. So I was studying, all the time, to the point where I was bringing my book back to work, and my supervisor would call me professor because I was always studying like during lunch and stuff like that. Because I was determined, man. I was, because I knew this is not what I wanted to do. And like I said, just given that love that I have for computing, I wanted to manifest that. And also even getting to that point wasn't easy, because it wasn't like I applied one time and boom, I was in. No, man, it took me like, I don't know, probably like 8, 9 times, or 7 to 8 times. I can't remember, but it was a lot of rejection at first. Almost to the point where I was about to give up, because like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get through. And but when I finally did, and another person, my first IT supervisor, I give a lot of credit to him as well, because yeah, he gave me that opportunity. And then from there, I was able to really learn and flourish. He did allow me. Well, what I would say was really good about him was that he allowed me to fail. And I think that's kind of what's missing now. Um, if you look at the current landscape when we're talking about jobs, and uh, even just the cyber workforce, we have this ever widening workforce cyber workforce gap. Because I think part of the problem, it's not the whole problem, but I think part of it too is that, I think supervisors or leaders, they expect the people coming on to just be that unicorn and just hit the ground running and just know everything right then and there. If you don't, we don't want you. And I think that's a really horrible way to go about it, because there are a lot of people that are hungry, that are willing to learn, that are eager to learn, and they're just not given that opportunity. They're not given a chance to, like I said, to fail. They're not given a chance to learn. Even Michael Jordan, the great Michael Jordan himself, one of his greatest quotes was, I fail and fail over and over again, and that's why I succeed. And I think there's so much power in that, because how else can you grow? You make the mistakes, you look back at what you did, you learn from it, and you get better. And I think that is like I said, I think that is a problem now with the current, with the way things are. They're not there's not enough patience. They want people to just, uh like I said, just know everything right off the bat, and perform. And a lot of times that's not always. I don't think that's always the case. I think you do have to give some leeway, try to give some slack, and also ensure that the person that you hire, and that they do stay on track. But you do have to give a bit of grace and patience. So
Awesome. I mean, you have actually touched in a number of areas, but there are two things that you have actually mentioned that I want you to delve a little bit more into, and it has to do with dealing with rejections and failing forward. And
mm,
I think that is one of those areas that a lot of cybersecurity folks who are trying to progress do not really know how to deal with rejections. I mean, in the fact that they, for example, they might acquire X amount of skills and they apply and they think that, oh, yes, I'm going to be getting this super job. And just to find out that
yeah,
you're just not good enough. But before you but you actually go into that, I reflected on my earlier days, as you have mentioned before. I mean, I started similar with a curiosity, I mean, into IT.
right,
I mean, I was part of a management information system program at the time, the very first batch. And I used to be so curious. I mean, you used to have those guys who used to be fixing the computers and the networking. And, back then, these guys weren't
right,
so willing to share it. It was like top secrets. I
yeah,
was always curious, pricing over their shoulders, trying to find out what is it that these guys are doing. But regardless of being turned away, the consistency, always trying to ask a question. How does a computer work? What is this? What is
right,
a CPU? What is and they have a saying to say that if you stay around the barber shop long enough, you will get a
yeah.
haircut.
You're gonna get
So
a
I
cut.
eventually
Yep.
got my break. So I totally understand where you're coming from. That's where my journey also
Yeah.
started. So going back to the point of rejection and failure. Can you shed some more light in terms of how were you able to deal with these, I mean, rejections as you excel in your career? Because no doubt you would have had some amount of challenges in terms of moving from one job role to the next and the level of skills that you had to acquire to move to these various job roles.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yes, number one, yeah, transitioning from one career field to another is that is a big deal, because you are essentially starting from scratch when you cross over. Um, yeah, in most cases, unless you already have, requisite experience, then maybe you could start a little higher. But in most cases, you are going to start from scratch when you are transitioning from one career field to another. So even with that, especially in your current career field, if you are making a certain amount, and you're used to that, because with the amount of income, of course, that's usually associated with a particular lifestyle. Um, so now we're talking about you're trying to change and start over because you want to change to another career field. Your lifestyle more or less may have to change, because now that income that you were used to is not going to be the same anymore, at least not initially. So that is something to factor in. I think, and even with that, that can be scary. But if you know that's something that you truly want to do, if that's where you feel like you belong, then you have to pursue it. Um, and then just I think just maintaining that drive, maintaining that hunger. And as I mentioned with my first IT supervisor at the Department of Veterans Affairs, he saw that in me. He saw that hunger that I had, and just being new. Whenever there were any certain projects or any assignments that he was trying to give out, and I was always first to raise my hand to do it, while a couple of the guys I work with, and mind you, these are folks who were, already working there X amount of years. So some of them, like they may have acquired some, maybe some bad habits then, but no, they may have turned it down, but I was the one to say, hey, like, cause my in my mind, I'm like, who am I to turn this down? Like, I'm new, I need experience. Like, yes, I'll do this. I need to learn, because that's the only way. That's the only way you're gonna get better. Is to do it. I think the the book work, the theory is good to an extent, but you do need to pair that up with actually going out, having that hands-on experience, going out into the field and working. And because that's really how it really sticks, when you're able to pair the book work, the book knowledge, and also the practical knowledge, and put it together. It's gonna click in your brain. It's gonna be cemented in your brain. So yeah, yeah, I was always hungry. I was always willing to learn. I was always trying to do different things, different projects, anything that was coming up, and any way that I could even represent my shop, and any events that we had, I always volunteered to do it, because like I said, I looked at it different from everyone else, is that I looked at it as a learning experience. I looked at it as for me to gain experience that I needed, so I can progress, so I can get better. Because if not, you're just gonna stay stagnant. You're gonna stay in the same place. um so yeah, so even with that, I'd even say, given getting up to that position, before I even got that position, you um it can get difficult when it's not going to be easy when like whatever you're pursuing. You can't just expect, like, boom, you're just going to get it right then and there. um there is going to be some arduous times. There's going to be times that you're going to go through some difficulty, and you have to remind yourself, like, from one, like, why am I doing this? And like, and for who you're doing it for. Um, and you have to keep reminding yourself, and keep pushing yourself. And uh, you just have to keep working harder, because within every rejection, I remember I was always, with every rejection, I was looking at, what could I do better? Like, what could I change on my resume to make myself better? And also, and not just simply change a resume. What skills can I get so I can legitimately change my resume? So yeah, um you do have to look at rejection as a way. It's hard, it stinks, but you do have to have that mindset to say, okay, I didn't get this time. What can I do next time, so to keep improving, to keep getting better? And just remember that it's something I've learned along the way, is that rejection is not a no. It's just a not yet. You, so you do have to maintain that, because I think some people, they give up too early, and they never realize their full potential, because they gave up too early. They got through a little, adversity, got they experienced a little adversity, and then it's like, ah, I'm out, I can't do this. Like, man, you could have. I think you're just cheating yourself, because if you really pushed and persevered, you could have, and getting to the other side of that, you could have seen something really great. So you can't. So yeah, you can't cheat yourself. You do have to persevere through that adversity. Is never going to be easy. And also too, I don't, like, who would want it that way anyway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I think it makes you appreciate it more when you do go through that adversity and come out on the other side of it. So yeah, so that's one thing. Yeah, I would say, whenever you go into something, like whatever it is, whatever goals you have set for yourself, you do have to um keep like have that mentality, stay mentally strong, and just remember like why are you doing this, like and then also just keep pushing through, always looking to improve. Whether that means if you have to study harder or if you have to maybe get some guidance from people within your community, and which is why I said earlier like how important that mentors are, how important mentorship can be. Even coaches, even like career coaches or anything like that, like people who can pour into you, those good vibes, those encouraging words, just ways to keep you going. And like I said, when it's time, when it's tough, when it's arduous, you just know, so you just gotta keep pushing through. You gotta just keep working harder because you're gonna realize that goal.
Exactly, and I totally agree. I mean, so often when we look at um folks that are trying to excel in cybersecurity, at times they do not really take that time to build an association, to build a connection, to build relationships so that they can actually have a more holistic development in their approaches. I mean, to have that positive mindset to keep pushing forward. I was once told that uh, as it relates to rejections, being told no,
Mhm.
actually means next opportunity. And I've
There
always
you go.
used that
I
as
like that.
my catalyst in terms of moving forward. Once I get a rejection, next opportunity. How do I reach
Right.
it? How do I consistently
Right.
move forward? So that thing of mentorship can be so powerful in terms of actually pushing forward. Um, there's one question that I'm always asked, and I often even see this in terms of there are so many various communications stating that there is a huge demand for cyber talent. And yet we see and hear the stories of so many applicants being denied these job opportunities. I mean, what's your thought on this? Um, and
Man,
what what is it that applicants can really do to stand out against the competition based on your experience?
no, that's great because actually we just had a conversation on my podcast, the Cyber Coffee Hour, where we're looking at the current cyber workforce, the gaps, and looking at it from a global perspective. So not just here within North America, but we also we looked at Latin America, we looked at Africa, we looked at Asia, Europe, and the numbers are just absolutely nuts. And one of the things I'd say that I don't like, especially since I think this really came about since the pandemic, because you saw there was such a big pivot around then, at that time, from 2020, where people were losing jobs and people were looking at cybersecurity as a way to pivot and start new careers. And I think that's where you saw an influx of people, getting on. And it was the first time, that I've ever seen like commercials for like Udemy or like Coursera. Because before, I mean, they were always around, but they never got popular like this.
Exactly.
So I was like, oh wow, they on TV now. So yeah, so because yeah, people were cross scaling, that they were or upscaling, I should say, to cybersecurity. So a lot of folks were looking at CompTIA A plus certs or CompTIA Security Plus, Network Plus, things of that nature, so they can get their foot in the door. And I think a lot of companies were receptive to that. They're doing a lot of hiring. I think hiring was up, but I think once the economy and once we got a handle on the pandemic, started to figure it out. Now you saw a lot of these companies like, oh man, we can't afford to keep all these people we hired, so we had to make cuts. And unfortunately, you're starting to see a lot of that, globally, especially like some real big name companies too. So, large and small. But going back to the like I said, the thing I didn't like is the current cybersecurity marketing, to where like you hear. like in the commercials on the radio, say, hey, do this class, for 6 weeks and you make six figures, you know. And I'm like, really? Because it's crazy because I think it's playing on people's vulnerability because people who are desperate to find a job and trying to make ends meet and they hear that and be like, oh man, that's all I gotta do. That's it. Boom, let me do that. And and honestly, that is I feel that's so fraudulent because for one, you entry level IT, and remember difference IT and cyber, they're not the same. They're not synonymous. They're different. Um, when we looking at IT, you're looking at, particularly help desk or SOC analysts, things of that nature. So, and coming right into the field, you're not making six figures as an entry level, tier one help desk. It, hey, if you let me know where they're doing that at, I'll do it because
Honestly,
um
I have been searching to find out where.
right, yeah, you're not finding that. And the only the only people I'd say that are making that type of money are those who are in the executive level. And also, but even with them, they're not sitting on the phones taking help desk calls. They're having people report to them. So yes, it's very misleading. Like I said, it's playing on people's vulnerability and their desperation to get a job and to want to learn something. And like I said, really main thing and the way I think it's kind of transforming cybersecurity to make it seem as if this is just like a cash cow. You know what I mean? Like you're just looking at cyber as a way to just make money, as opposed. I mean, of course, yes. I'm not saying. I mean, you can't ignore money. We need money to survive, but you you do have to have that mindset that you want to come into this field, that you want to learn and also contribute to to the mission. Preparing wherever you go, whichever organization you want to work for, because the threat is real. That there are bad actors out there that are every day working to infiltrate our systems and do like real world damage. It's not like there are real like I said, a big maybe life changing, life altering consequences if some of these bad actors are successful in their pursuit to infiltrate our systems. And I don't think that part is being stressed. They, like I said, people are looking at it as if like, oh man, going to cyber, I can make this amount of money. Boom. It's not like working at McDonald's or something like that. Like this, no, this is a big deal. Like the systems that you be responsible for, especially when we talk about from a cybersecurity perspective, the networks that you're working on, or who you may report to, like who does this affect? It could be affecting, folks in the White House or things of that nature, or our partners globally. So you got to have that perspective, that mindset. Like this is big, this is a big deal, and what you're doing, the skills that you're working to attain, that you're helping a team towards accomplishing a mission, and, so not just for yourself, not just for your job, but a lot of cases for your country, because um like I said, you're gonna have bad actors out there that are working tirelessly every day to try to affect our critical infrastructure. When we talk about infrastructure, you're talking about like our water, energy, our power grid, things of that nature. Because and that's where I based even my dissertation on, when you're looking at critical infrastructure. So if adversaries were to compromise our power grid, just imagine not having power for an extended period of time, and what and the domino effect of that. Uh, you have hospitals that need power for critical care patients, and if they don't have power, and the generators are only good for a while. They don't last forever. So those backup power, if that goes out, I mean, we're talking about like real world catastrophe. It affect the financial sector. I mean, a lot of different things that it'll affect. So I mean, and so that's the type of I think that's the type of mindset you have to have when coming into this field is that you're trying to be something you're trying to be part of the bigger mission. It's not just like I said a quick job to get in and try to make money, but um you're gaining skills so you could help to be a big player towards accomplishing the goals, accomplishing the mission for any respective organization, company, what have you. um like I said, as I said before, the threat is real. People are trying to do damage. They're trying to hurt. They're really trying to hurt us. It's not a game. So it's it's a real thing.
I mean, you've actually said so much, so many points that you could actually turn that into an entire podcast in of itself. I mean, there are so many things that are going through my mind right now, so many avenues of conversation that we could actually um branch out on. So definitely we
Right.
can actually look forward and look into some future collaborations where we can actually
I
deep dive into that point. So I mean,
Absolutely.
that's something that definitely needs to be addressed continuously. Um, but Dr. Joseph, it was a pleasure, I mean, having this conversation with you, and it's such a nice,
Right.
informative, interesting note to end on as it relates to all the valuable points that you have actually added so far. I mean, no doubt the information that you have actually shared can be of value to those who are seeking that level of guidance into this field. So it was indeed a pleasure having you and having this conversation.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. No, this was great, and it's a shame it only lasted this long. I could have kept going, but no, this was good, and and I do like what you're doing here too. I think this is great because, like I said, when I saw the invite, I was like, oh man, I'm about to go in CyberJA. No, so no, I salute to you, salute to the work that you're doing. Because from one content creator to another, it is hard work. It's not easy, especially when you're reaching out, trying to secure, sync schedules with folks from different time zones and things of that nature. So I get it. I definitely understand. So again, salute to you, the work you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I even looked through your catalog, so I like what I saw. So like again, keep up the great work. And yeah, man. And I fully expect to have you on the Cyber Coffee Hour at one point, so we can have some extended conversations.
Well, I mean, thank you very much for all those, I mean, compliments. And I definitely look forward to being on on your podcast for sure. I mean,
Absolutely.
I really appreciate all that you're taking your time to be a part and to share, to give back. At the end of the day, guys, we're all here to help each other, to grow each other's
Right.
skill sets so that we can be the best defenders for our organization, keeping our people, our processes, and technology secure. So everyone, stay tuned, stay connected for future recordings on the CyberJA podcast.